Welcome to the fourth edition of the Fantasy Football Factory podcast as we get geared up for the 2021 season. I'm your host, Ben Mintz, joined once again by Steven Cheah. Today's episode, we're going to go a little bit of a different direction. So we did our running back rankings, we did our receiving rankings, we did our quarterback and tight end rankings. Well, today we're bringing on our first special guest, and it is the only Kelly in Vegas, Barstool's newest gambling hire, going to join us, and we're going to look at season-long props we like on the Barstool Sportsbook. We're going to show you some background on Kelly, her story, how she got to Barstool, and Mr. Cheah, so excited to welcome her to the Fantasy Football Factory.
Yeah, no, so we taped that directly before doing the intro, and she was awesome. Like, we went for, roughly 45, 50 minutes. We gave a bunch of season-long picks. We also did a couple week one things, which were really exciting, just because we're getting into football. We got a game this Thursday night. My team's playing, so we are pumped, and I think you're going to get, hopefully – you're listening to this podcast, we're going to be making a lot of money because we had some great picks. I actually liked a few of the things that you set out, which is a surprise because that's not really
the first time for everything.
Yeah. But I think we got some good picks coming, and let's get right into it.
And a couple house cleaning things. Thank y'all. First of all, we broke into the podcast rankings. I saw us at 75. Can't say thank you enough to the Stoolies. We're just getting started. This is the tip of the iceberg. Thank y'all for that. Follow us at FFF Pod, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. We're hitting it all. We're getting the ground floor running. We're going to have a segment on this week's Pro Football Show. Thank you to Deion Sanders and Dave and Dan and Casey for having us. We're also going to have a Sunday show right after the Pro Football Show is over on the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube channel. When the actives and actives list comes out at 11:30 Eastern, we're going to hit you with who you should start and sit that day. We're going to take a look at the game. We're even going to touch on the gambling lines, and we're going to answer your questions. The segment's going to be called Dear Mr. Fantasy. Fantasy football is all about interacting with you guys. I don't know about you, Mr. Cheah. My inbox is getting flooded. Thank y'all so much, and we want to let you guys have a public forum to answer your questions.
Yeah, bad word choice for me. I just reiterated flooded. My house just got flooded with Hurricane Ida this past week. Hopefully, everyone that is affected is doing better now. My inbox has been overcome with fantasy advice. People asking for draft grades. All that we ask, and we were doing them all that we ask is that you get a 5-star review on the FFF pod, the Fantasy Football Factory presented by Miller Lite, and also to follow us on Instagram so we can get to that 10K mark. We're almost there. Once we get there, we can do a lot more cool things. But yeah, I'm really excited to do the Sunday show with you, Dear Mr. Fantasy, where we go over the actives, inactives, and start sits. Let's get into that momentarily. Of course, this show is brought to you by Miller Lite. We've got our draft coming up Thursday, which we're about to get into. It's going to be auction style, which is going to be fun. A lot of people haven't done an auction with fantasy football, including myself. I've done for basketball. But one thing is for sure, and that is going to be that people are going to have great tasting, less filling, Miller Lites in their hand, enjoying themselves. There's going to be a lot of certainly competition within the dozen trivia teams and the bloggers for players that they really want. But the reigning champion of light beers is always going to be Miller Lite. Only 96 calories. Awesome drink. 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Miller Lite is my favorite light beer. And next time you're getting ready to enjoy cold ones with your friends, go to MillerLite.com/fantasy to find delivery options near you. Or you can pick up Miller Lite pretty much anywhere they sell beer. It's Miller time. I mean, grocery store, beer depot, liquor store, like they're all going to have this stuff. But remember to celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories, and again, 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. That alone is reason enough to switch to Miller Lite if you're not already there. But the great tasting, less filling nature is the best reason. Miller Lite, the king of light beers for me personally. But yeah, let's talk about this draft. This is going to be really fun. So we've decided auction style. Credit to you. This was your idea. You said, I think it would be really fun if we do an auction draft with the Barstool people. Obviously we're going to have a league sponsored by Miller Lite this year, which is going to be really exciting. But you came to me with this idea, and I said, that's a great idea because in the traditional past, we've done just the standard snake draft. But I think utilizing the talent on Wednesday night, I think we're going to be going at about 6 p.m. Eastern, utilizing the talent to bid up against each other. A lot of people I would assume don't have as much experience in this. So, they might get attached to a player. It could create for some interesting drama. So tune in Wednesday evening, and we'll be there on the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube.
Oh, yeah. Can't wait for the live auction draft. And want to give a huge shout out to our friend Jeff D'Lo. This year, taking the dozen rivalries into fantasy, you've already got such built-in rivalries, and people are going to care because if we've learned anything, fans and people in the office freaking love the dozen, and that's going to bring an edge to this fantasy league, keeping those rivalries going. And love Jeff for allowing us to incorporate the dozen.
Yep.
And it's going to make the draft a whole heck of a lot of fun. And, I'm a champion of the dozen already, so why not try to win the fantasy league too?
The big Screaming Honkers, the defending champs. It's going to be exciting to see you guys paired against my team, the Yak, and a bunch of other teams. We have one new team, which is out of office. So Joe Lanero, Coach Doug's, and then Chris, I believe it's Castellani is the last name.
It is.
Very nice guy, the Detroit Tigers guy, who's a wonderkin in trivia. I'm excited to see everybody participating against each other, competing this draft this Wednesday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Who do you think is going to be the most savvy better in
well, I think a couple of things on this league. One thing I'm going to be watching close, we're doing a super flex league, which means you can start 2 quarterbacks. Everybody
this was our first agreement in this the league. Has to be a super flex league.
Once you go 2 quarterbacks, you can never go back.
Yes.
Literally. Like once you do it once, you're just like, what the hell have I been doing?
Right.
But that's going to be something I'm watching close for this auction though, Shay, because a lot of people haven't done the 2 quarterback league, and they don't adjust the value, realizing that means quarterbacks have way more value, which deflates the value of running backs and receivers.
Correct.
I expect people to not adjust to that, and you're going to see the top running backs still go for the same prices. Yeah. I expect that to be something you watch out for. Your quarterback value may be a little more than it should be in a 2 QB super flex league, and I think that especially the top running backs are going to go for too much. And then also, as that tier 2 running back winds down, teams that don't have a number 1 running back tend to panic. You see a lot of panicking in that these middling, pretty good running backs go for too much money when teams freak out that they don't already have a running back. That's something to watch for.
Yeah, you might see some crazy people buy up Najee Harris as an RB1.
They could. Went for 44 in mine the other day, so that's pretty hot.
Yeah.
Pretty hot. So excited. That's going to be Tuesday night, or Wednesday night, 6 p.m. Eastern, and the dozen teams doing the fantasy league. Man, it's going to be so much fun.
And then, let's talk about the Dear Mr. Fantasy Show Sundays, which will be at 11:30 right after the actives inactives list. We'll go live shortly after the Pro Football show ends, which is great. We're going to have a segment on that show, which will be a lot of fun. But the show is going to be on the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube and the BarstoolSports.com blog. It'll be great. We want to take as many questions and help people out with as many conundrums as they have, because that very hot time on Sunday for fantasy advice is 11:30 Eastern when that list comes out. Because if you have a guy, Saquon Barkley, week 1 against Denver, is he going or not? All this stuff is going to come out. Is your first round pick going to play? Hopefully that is the case. That's why they're a first round pick. But there are situations where you have a guy that you're counting on, and then all of a sudden he's a kind of a mystery scratch, and you got to scramble. We're going to be your guys to tell you where to go once that happens.
Yeah, and also I believe the best way to interact with us, hashtag Dear Mr. Fantasy, tagging you, me, or the Fantasy Football Factory Pod, probably the best way to get your question asked, or DM us.
It'll be YouTube comments. So it'll all be real time. So we'll be interacting with the chat as much as possible.
Okay.
And it'll be great. We'll be monitoring it all. So taking your questions Sundays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern.
Awesome. And we might even throw a couple gambling picks in there too, as we continue to build our relationship with the Barstool Sportsbook. Well, we're so excited now, Steven, to bring on our special guest today, Kelly in Vegas, going to join us, tell us about her favorite prop plays. And we're going to look also not just season-long props, we're going to look ahead to week 1, because it's this week. It's 2 days away.
Can't wait.
Some Cowboys, the defending Super Bowl champion, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Taking the field Thursday night.
Can't wait. Let's get into it with Kelly in Vegas. So welcome into this segment where we are going to be talking with Kelly in Vegas about some season-long props. little week one stuff sprinkled in the end. But Kelly in Vegas, thank you for joining us. You have a new show coming out. Talk to us about it.
We do. Megan, Making Money, and myself. I've always wanted to do a show with another female handicapper. And as you know, there's not a lot of us out there. And so I signed on with Barstool. I said, Megan, we're doing a show. We got to make this work some way, somehow, even though we're both remote. She said, all right, cool, let's do it. And I said, you're in charge of the name. You are so much more creative than me. And start the show. We're going to be called Money Shots. And I said, Megan, she goes, get your mind out of the gutter, Kelly. This is all about taking shots with our own hard-earned cash. And I said, okay, Megan. And it was really funny. I texted some of my guy friends and they're like, oh my God, I love that name. So I think our logo or like our merch is going to be like the money guns back to each other, just shooting like the stripper dollars into the air.
Love it. And where can we find that? Is that going to be a podcast? Is it going to be on YouTube?
So it's going to be a podcast. It's going to be on YouTube. We're going to do video format, obviously, because, well, let's just be real. Guys want to see videos of chicks and talking about games.
Let's go. All right. So that'll be awesome. So that's going to be joining the Barstool Sports Network. But give the people a little bit of background on who you are, where you're from. You apparently are not in Vegas at the very moment. But how did you get the name Kelly in Vegas? And where are you banned?
Oh my gosh, we can't talk about where I'm banned because then Westy's going to send me an email and say that's against compliance. All jokes aside, look, this has been a really crazy ride. I started betting sports when I was like probably 15 or 16 years old, betting my buddies. Once I figured out what there was lines, and I remember I worked at the bar in college. I was 18 because that's all you have to be to serve booze. You just can't dispense it in the great state of Kansas. And there would be this old guy every single shift. And he would just be there and he'd be handicapping games. His name was Sage. And I'd ask him all the questions and I'm like, what's the math that goes into this? And I didn't really ever understand anything, but I would be able to talk to him about the games. And especially at that time, the Big 12 games, because I was at Kansas State. And so it was kind of just the slow progression. I moved to Las Vegas. I lost my ass betting table games on more times than I could count because that's why the house has the edge and those giant casinos are there. But always just loved gambling. Sports gambling just kind of came natural to me because I was already watching the games and I already kind of had my opinion on how I thought these games would go. Throw in the great equalizer of the spread and the total, and there you have it. I spent a long time at Don Best with some really sharp guys who kind of helped mold me and really show me how to do power ratings and other things like that. Moved on to Wager Talk, where I was lucky enough to be catapulted in this media kind of space because I have a business degree. I know Erica doesn't ever want to hear that, but all jokes aside, I don't have a journalism degree like so many people in media do. And it just kind of started to steamroll from there. I'm so happy to be at Barstool. Things so far, it hasn't even been a month, but things have been going really well. And I'm excited to put out some great content.
Let's go. That sounds awesome. We were very happy to have you on your show. It's going to be awesome. Megan Making Money is a friend of yours, Mintz, right?
Yes, she is. Megan from Lafayette, Louisiana. We worked together, did some ESPN Baton Rouge stuff, which was my former employer, the LSU flagship. She worked for FanDuel before she came over here. She started on Reddit, got hot on Reddit, gambling against her husband, went like 15 or 16-0. And that next thing you know, she builds a huge following. FanDuel took a shot on her, and now we've got her. And she's a big star. Kelly, I couldn't be more impressed with what I've seen out of you. Really enjoyed having you on Pick Central, and can't wait to support y'all's show. Y'all are both not just two very beautiful women, but y'all are both very smart and have fun personalities. Y'all both strike me as people that have the total package. So can't wait to see Money Shots. And thank you for joining us on today's show on Fantasy Football Factory.
Absolutely. I've watched you guys' show a ton of times. Why? Because I suck at fantasy football. My team name is actually called the KIV Curse because whoever I draft gets hurt. It has happened 4 seasons in a row. Dak last year, Le'Veon Bell a couple seasons prior just didn't even play. Todd Gurley the year he got hurt. It's just been an absolute travesty. So hoping this year I can take home at least a playoff win. Maybe just need to level up a little bit to stop embarrassing myself.
We play for titles. We don't play for playoff appearances. It's not once you get in the dance, anything can happen. It's very predictable. We can do this. Listen to us all year long. Hopefully we'll give you a couple tips to get you through that playoff run and get you in there, of course. But let's talk about your bets. So season-long props. We circulated these before just to make sure we're not like overlapping too much. And you had certainly some interesting ones. What's one of your favorite season-long bets we got in the Barstool Sportsbook right now?
I'm going to preface this by saying I bet most of these probably 2-3 weeks ago. So some of the lines have moved or the juice has moved. So I apologize for that. I'm also going to say this is the most futures bets I've ever bet in my life. So it's going to go one of two ways. You just know that's how it works. Usually I don't like to tie up my money for 8+ months, right? Unless I love something. And the more I started to dig into these props, because Barstool offers way more props than we were able to get in Las Vegas, right? It just used to be Vegas was like division winner, Super Bowl, and maybe a little bit here and there. But they have tons of player props. They have regular season wins. They've got division winner. They've got will they make the playoffs? So I kind of want a little nuts here, but I'm going to give you guys my favorite 5. Starting off with, sorry, Kansas City Chiefs fans, Tyreek Hill under 1,350.5 receiving yards. I'm sorry, there's just too many weapons on that Kansas City Chiefs team. Way too many. He's technically the number 1 receiver. I understand that, but that is baked into the cake. Not to mention, what did we see in the Super Bowl? That's right. Defenses are able to shut down this offense right now. And I think that kind of gave a few other defensive coordinators the playbook. I'm sorry, Tyreek, but I could see him right around the 1,200 mark, but 1,350.5, I have to go under.
Extra game. I mean, I think it was the last 8 games, he averaged 11 targets a game. I understand like Buffalo kind of set the blueprint out with the 2 deep shell and kind of everyone is, sagging back, not wanting to get beat by the deep ball. But that's a shocking one. When you sent that, I was blown away because that's my wide receiver 1 in fantasy. I can't have that guy go under 1,350. It was 1,350, right?
1,350.5. And you say that. This is my biggest beef with fantasy is, yes, I want to win championships, but my bets take precedence. So it's so hard when I've got, let's just say, the Sunday night football game. I've got, the
Rams Bears is week 1.
Yeah, Rams Bears, and all of a sudden I need Allen Robinson to do XYZ for my fantasy team, but on the flip side I have the under, and it's like, help! It's just like you're like in this like conflicted mode. So I always let my bets take precedent over my fantasy, and usually that's when my fantasy player goes off because why? That's just how these things happen.
My only thoughts on that, it's not fun betting anything unders of Patrick Mahomes and KC. So I just make sure you don't watch the games.
Basically, you're right. I don't want to watch. I'm going to cover my eyes. I'm going to pray for him to be double teamed a whole lot this year. This is going to be one of those things where I think you're right, Steven, with the extra game. It's going to be a sweat down to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. Should be interesting. Mintzy, what do you got first?
Okay. I'm going to start with a passing yardage prop, and I've talked a lot about the upgrade from Jared Goff to Matthew Stafford. I know I actually agree. Kelly and I'll get to this. Kelly and I are both higher on the Niners than most people, with so many people talking about the Rams. But Sean McVay's never had a quarterback like this. We saw what he did with Kirk Cousins in Washington, putting up crazy numbers. I think what he got out of Jared Goff, getting him to the Super Bowl, he dragged so much out of him. But he's never had a gunslinger like Matthew Stafford. I like Stafford 10-1 to win the passing title. I think you're going to see a different Rams offense. They're still going to run some, but so much of their passing game was based off play action with Goff. I think you're going to see them open it up a lot more this year. I already gave out Stafford over 4,600.5 passing yards, and I'm going to go with them at 10-1. They play on that fast track in LA. I think they're going to chunk it this year. I think it's going to be pretty wide open. And so I think 10-1 is good odds.
I like that. Stafford, I think, when Goff was, I think it was 2018 when the Rams went to the Super Bowl, Goff was about 4,600 yards. So I like Stafford with the over, and I'm a big buyer in Stafford this year. Leading the league in passing, especially with Cam Akers' injury, I could see that.
I just think when you look at Sean McVay, so much of that offense is about being balanced and covering up Goff's weaknesses. I think he has never had a chance to have an elite quarterback to really open it up this year. And Stafford, coming out of an awful situation in Detroit, 33, 34 years old, I just think it's a perfect storm. Also, like Robert Woods, Cooper Kupp, Tyler Higbee, some of their weapons. So that's my first.
I do think it'll be nice to see Stafford have a better O-line. I'm not saying that the Rams O-line is, at top tier level, but they're better than the Detroit Lions O-line. And to have him have that extra second, that extra half a step should help him get over that total. I do think when he said it, I said, wow, that seems a little high, which usually that inner monologue within myself usually means go the opposite way.
Well, it's also interesting, the props, the 17-game season's affecting these numbers a lot. So all the numbers are a little higher. And shout out, you mentioned the offensive line, Andrew Whitworth from my hometown area, 39 years old, a year older than me, still doing the damn thing at left tackle, protecting his blindside.
He is a marvel. He just continues to do it year after year. He's still really good. All right, I'm going to stay with the LA Rams with my first pick. Feel like this is almost too easy. The line actually just moved, which I'm kind of annoyed about. I got it at plus 400. It's moving up. It's moved to plus 450 as of this morning. Aaron Donald, Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, 3 of the last 4 years, he's won Defensive Player of the Year. And he hasn't had, I think it was 2018, he had 20 and a half sacks, which was his career year. But last year, 13 and a half sacks. Like, he can absolutely do this. And, I know there were people out there who were saying, TJ Watt deserved Defensive Player of the Year. And it was certainly very close as far as the numbers. But as far as impact on the game, Aaron Donald is Michael Jordan of defensive football. Like, he is the best defensive player probably ever. Like, he points to maybe Lawrence Taylor being better than him. Maybe. But Aaron Donald is so dominant from a pass rushing standpoint from the interior. Like, you don't see guys do that, putting up consistent double-digit sack seasons. With a new coach, Raheem Morris, who's a Hofstra guy, my former Bucks guy. I'm a huge Raheem Morris fan. He's going to use him perfectly in this scheme. I love Aaron Donald to repeat as Defensive Player of the Year, make it 4 out of 5 years. Right now, he's plus 450 in the Barstool Sportsbook.
I don't want to cheer against you, but I need Chase Young to win that award. Why? Because if Chase Young and that Washington football team defense puts up massive numbers, shuts down elite quarterbacks, guess what? That should attribute to the Washington football team plus 260, currently plus 220 over at the Barstool Sportsbook to win the NFC East. I know Dallas is back, right? Dak's going to be back. Zeke's going to have a great year. All of a sudden, all of the Cowboys' woes are just going to go away. I'm not buying it. I think the Cowboys need some time. Look, that offense was great, but what's going to happen when they run into this buzzsaw? Defense wins championships. It's the old adage, but there's a reason for it. And the Washington football team hopefully get into the playoffs, no sweat, by winning the NFC East.
I love that bet. I actually have that too. I got it, as you said, at 220. The line has moved, so you're obviously ahead on this one. Listen to this. Final 6 games for the Washington football team. They're going to be Washington and Vegas with Kelly, at the Raiders versus Dallas, at Philly, at Dallas versus Philly, close with the Giants. I mean, we talked about the NFC least. They're going to be feasting on that towards the end of the year. Ryan Fitzpatrick, he's been my quarterback before. I'm a Bucs fan. He's up and down. He's going to lose you a game, but he's also going to win you games that you don't expect him to win. And with this defense, I mean, they're so good. They were calling them the Maroon 5 before, but now that Ryan Kerrigan's gone, the 4 first-rounders on the defensive line, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne. I mean, these guys are lights out. I love what they did in free agency in the draft. They got William Jackson, the cornerback, who's awesome. Jamin Davis is a really good linebacker out of Kentucky that should help improve their defense even more. I love the Washington football team and their weapons. I mean, Terry McLaurin, and Antonio Gibson. I think it's going to be a huge year for the football team. I love them to win the division.
My next one is, and this is a homer pick, and I'll catch heat for it, but hear me out. I'm going Sean Payton, 18-1 to win Coach of the Year. No, here's why. The Saints I think they're probably headed for like 9-8, 10-7. But if they do have another really good, they're 8-1 when Breeze is out the last 2 years. This hurricane thing is going to change public sentiment toward Peyton. If he pulls off an 11 or 12 win year with what's happened in New Orleans, being on the road the first quarter of the year, losing Drew Brees, if they go 11-6 or 12-5, there's going to be huge sentiment for him to be Coach of the Year. And I know that's a weird analysis to use the hurricane for it, but it's going to be a big public thing, overcoming adversity, overcoming Brees leaving, overcoming all kinds of stuff. So I'm if the Saints, it's a big if because they lost 10 starters. There's a lot of things going on. Yeah. But if things do break right, I don't think they have to go 14-3. I think if they go 11-6, he's right in there. So I'm taking him 18-1. It's my guy. Let's go.
All right, I mean,
overpick for sure.
I actually don't hate it. Look, I'm higher on the Saints. I drafted Jameis as my QB too. Look, the biggest thing about what the angle you're talking about here with this hurricane game is 3 out of their first 5 games are on the road anyway. I know they have to play the first game in Jacksonville, and now the line is 4.5, I believe, for the Packers.
Home game for Jameis, though.
Exactly. This is
Aaron Rodgers. The Saints went to all avenues to the research was hilarious. They took Jacksonville because Aaron Rodgers is 3-4 in his career in Florida. That was a huge
and it's going to be hotter than hell in Jacksonville for that game.
Florida logic.
The Saints are going to be fine, and the guy from Green Bay is going to be sweating his ass off on the sidelines with everybody else.
Oh,
that is funny. I mean, I can't see it. They again, 10 starters. I will say though, and it seems like Kelly and I are in agreement that Jameis Winston will put up fantasy numbers at least. If that translates to wins, it's a whole different thing. But if that does, and he has a reclamation project of a former number one pick who has all the talent to do so, it could happen. I don't think it will, but it certainly has the makings for it.
Well, the biggest thing I reiterate, not to repeat forever, but it's just the fact is I think if you win 11 games, he's in the mix for it. I think because of the hurricane thing and losing Breeze, I think you can, if they just beat their over by 2 games even, I think people are going to be talking about it. That's part of the logic.
Fair. All right, let's go. Kelly, I think you're up next.
Yeah, I just looked at my list, and I should have brought this up when we were talking about the Niners and the Rams. Mincy and I both think that the Niners are going to probably come out of the NFC West, but it is an absolute utter gauntlet. I even think that the Cardinals are going to be pretty solid this year if they can get out of their own way in some of those close games. And you know what that means? I mean, Seattle's on the outside looking in. I'm going to take Seattle to miss the playoffs, plus 110. Seattle team, listen, I'm a big Tyler Lockett fan. I hope to see him in Dallas for the K-State game. But, man, I cannot get past how horrific this defense has been, how they haven't made the changes to make it better. I think they're going to need a little bit more time in order to do so. Look, there's a point in time where I understand offense is great. Everybody loves to see high scoring. But Seattle last year in one-score games did very well. There's going to be some regression to the mean there, and I think it's this year. I don't want to – I looked at betting them to finish third in the NFC West. I didn't think there was any value there, but then I saw this miss the playoffs plus money. Just a little bit of plus money just so that everybody runs to lay minus 130, minus 120 for them to make the playoffs because they always seem to do so. I'm going to take the plus 110 here.
I like it. My biggest thing on Seattle, their O-line has been bad for years, and the Niners and Rams D-lines are so tough they can't block them, and that's not good.
I mean, let's see how it works out. They got Shane Waldron in, who's the offensive coordinator formerly with the Rams, so he's with the school with McVay. I think Seattle's offense is going to look different this year, but I mean, off the top of my head, Russell Wilson has not missed the playoffs before, right?
Correct.
I think they missed it a couple of years. They missed it 1 or 2. When the Legion of Boom got disintegrated, they didn't make it.
That's kind of the thing is ever since the Legion of Boom got disintegrated, their defense just has been so bad. I haven't quite understood why they haven't made the necessary changes. I guess because you have Russell Wilson and a bunch of weapons. If all you do is to attempt to outscore your opponents every game, you don't need to play defense. But I think, they always talk about one of the greatest defenses is a great offense. Yeah, it's going to be a rough one for Seattle this year, I have a feeling.
Their defense is a hell of a lot better when Russell Wilson was on that rookie cheap contract. I can tell you that.
Yeah. That's how you ideally build a team. And I mean, it worked out for them. They got a Super Bowl in that time. But, it really hasn't been the same since that ass whooping against the Denver Broncos in Super Bowl 48, a game I attended, one of the worst Super Bowls of all time. But
God, that I still have flashbacks. I was sitting in the casino. I had an under ticket, and my girlfriend and I are both Broncos fans. Just notably, I bet the under, and as soon as that ball goes flying over Peyton's head, I was like, "Fuck! I got to go to the window right now and see if I can live bet a better number." It was so bad. I was like, "Oh my God, I'm going to lose so much money." And at that moment, I knew it was over. I mean, that was just such like a terrible first play. And I know bookmakers got absolutely crushed because there was a safety right out of the gate.
One of the most popular props every year, yeah.
I had Seattle huge in that Super Bowl, so I didn't hate it.
Their defense that year was strong. You know what else was strong? It's Chevy Silverado. It's the most advanced Silverado ever. Chevy Silverado is strong, dependable, hardworking. It's dependable like the people who drive them. The design is big, bold, and commanding. This truck turns heads, and it is a partner with grit and determination. Anything is possible with Silverado, and they're a partner in that. I don't know if you guys have seen, I have a friend that has a Silverado. It is awesome. He uses it for tailgating, hauling stuff. He actually helped my cousin move, which was really cool. It just has so much room, and it's really, really useful. And it just it's just way more spacious than I would think. Like when I think pickup truck, like I don't necessarily think room and space, but the Silverado definitely proved me wrong there. It is really, really awesome and would highly recommend Chevy Silverado for anyone looking for a new vehicle.
It's the only truck my dad's owned my entire life.
Oh, let's go.
He had one that he bought when I was in high school. And finally I said, Dad, why aren't you buying a new truck? Well, I don't need a new truck. Yes, you do. We just got him a brand new Silverado back in December. And it was like, it's got so many gadgets that I have to like teach him how to use like the nav and everything. But it was like so funny to see the truck from 2000 to 2001 and just know that he's going to have that truck for the rest of his life because that's how dependable they are.
Yeah, and clearly your dad, a brilliant guy, because he helped produce you, Kelly. So buy a Chevrolet Silverado like your old man.
Let's go. The strongest, most advanced Silverado ever. Thank you, Chevy Silverado, for the partnership. All right, one that I really like, or actually, no, Mintz, you go ahead. I cut you last time because I agreed with Kelly on that.
Well, I've done two. My next one is I've got A.J. Brown 14 to plus 1,400 to lead the NFL in receiving touchdowns. Big thing on him is staying healthy, but love his size in the red zone. Love the fact that he can stretch the field. He led the NFL the last 6 games of his rookie year in receiving, had another extremely strong year. I know Julio Jones on the other side, I don't think he's near the same at 32, 33 years old, but he is a big name, and defenses are going to have to at least pay some attention to him. Tannehill and A.J. Brown have a great connection. It's all about him staying healthy and hamstring not flaring up, but the upside is there for him. If things broke really right, he could have 13 to 15 touchdowns, and that's why I'm taking him at 14-1.
Not bad. I mean, Julio does not score touchdowns. Whatever it is throughout his career, Matt Ryan even alluded to it, is that him and Julio just could never really connect as much as they should have in the red area. So I don't hate that. Good value too.
Yeah, it's interesting because I was not, like, if you asked me in July, I was not that high on the Tennessee Titans. And now with all the woes going on throughout the rest of the division, Carson Wentz getting hurt, who's going to be the quarterback in Houston, I think that right there, the Tennessee Titans have at least 3 wins out of those 4. That kind of is somewhat tied into A.J. Brown, Ryan Tannehill, maybe even a little bit of Julio's successes.
Nice. All right, let's, from yours, Kelly, let's go back to the NFC West. This one, I feel like it's almost too good to be true. J.J. Watt under 8.5 sacks. Right now it's minus 134, so I get that. But, I mean, the last time he had over 8.5 was in 2018. The last time before that was 2015. I mean,
when was the last time he played a full season?
So he played 16 games actually last year, but he had 5 sacks. So like, okay, I mean, he's going to go to a new scheme. Who knows really what's going to happen there if they're moving him like, out. Chandler Jones has requested a trade. It hasn't been, obviously it hasn't gone through yet. But J.J. Watt is not like a speedy edge rusher that's going to, even if they have a 4-man defensive line, he's not really that guy anymore. So 8.5 just feels like a really high number for me. So I am heavy on the under 8.5 sacks. I just can't really see a rebirth. Like in 2019, he had 4 sacks, but he played in 8 games. So, you extrapolate that out, that's still 8 sacks. Like there's an extra game. So I guess it's like kind of right on that level, but I don't really anticipate him staying healthy and then outperforming his last several years. So I love the under on J.J. Watt here.
I like it.
Sorry, Mincy. I'm going to have to take an eye on that one because there are some of those player props, and I think this is where fantasy correlates and where you guys can really find those edges are things like that. Because if you ask me just point blank, we're walking down the street, Kelly, do you think J.J. Watt could have 9 sacks this year? My initial instinct is absolutely. Why wouldn't he? And then you start looking at his actual past performances, and I think that number is a little high.
Yeah, I'm hammering it. All right, Kelly, what's your next one?
I'm debating on which one I like more, but I think I'm going to go Broncos over 8.5 wins here. Now, I mentioned I grew up a Broncos fan, but let me promise you, no one was harder on John Elway. There's actually a hilarious picture I should tweet back out of me just ripping into John Elway's ass at this high limit room in Vegas. And it was really funny because I was like, if Trevor Siemian is the quarterback after he throws 2 interceptions to the Chargers, I'm going to come to the soccer stadium in LA where they were once playing, and I'm going to find you. And he's laughing, but it's true. Trevor Siemian threw 3 picks in that game. Broncos got shut out, and I was so mad that I went to that game. So actually, these are both kind of correlated, but I do think that I really like Vic Fangio as far as a defensive-minded coach. I do like Von Miller for the leadership of that defense. They picked up some nice guys in free agency. But most importantly, I did not bet this until last week. I was like praying, and it happened to be the same day that I released my Broncos video. And of course, I was like going back. They'd already announced that Teddy was going to be the starter. And I was like, okay, I'm now going to bet this. Now, if you look at it from a very basic, trivial standpoint, there is not really much drop off from Teddy to Drew Lock, but I do think that the Panthers really did not serve Teddy very well. I thought that when he was with Mincy Saints, he showed some real promise. Drew Lock led the NFL in interceptions last year. Like, I just don't trust John Elway quarterbacks, and Drew Lock was still on the tail end of that. And so I think now with Teddy, I also think he's going to command the locker room a little bit better. I do think he has better leadership skills. We're going to see how it plays out, but I like the over 8.5 wins.
My thing on Denver, last year the season was screwed before it started, losing Cortland Sutton and Von Miller. I mean, literally, like that was just before the year. It was like a death nail. And Drew Lock, you mentioned the turnovers. Teddy may not push the ball down the field, but Denver does have a strong defense. Cheah is extremely high on their rookie running back, Williams from North Carolina. You can run the ball, take care of the ball, play good defense. That's a winning recipe in pro football usually. So I see the logic.
So I actually want to piggyback this bet because one of mine, Mincy mentioned it, Javonte Williams. I'm very high on him. I just put a little flyer out there. He's plus 2,500 to win Rookie of the Year. I did a half a unit on that. I can see him having a Jonathan Taylor-like season. And really, the Rookie of the Year is either a hot running back who's very good, or if a quarterback is like a stud. So like, Kyler Murray won it. If a quarterback really breaks out, it's going to go to the quarterback Justin Herbert last year. Dak Prescott, I believe, won it. But then, you see guys like Eddie Lacy, winning Rookie of the Year. And running backs certainly can command that space. So I think Javonte Williams has as good of a shot as any at plus 2,500, 25 to 1. I like those odds. But the one I wanted to throw out there is I like the Denver Broncos to make the playoffs as a wild card. So, I mean, that's a tough division. I was about to say San Diego, but the Chargers are going to be improved. They're a good team. Justin Herbert's going to have a full off season. The Raiders, everyone bags on them. They're always right around like the 7-win mark. They're typically hovering around 500. And the Chiefs, no explanation needed. They're incredible. But what I love is just that the Broncos, and I said this during the draft, they are zigging when everyone else is zagging. It's becoming a passing league. Everyone's trying to, air it out. The Broncos are going to play defense, and they're going to try and take the air out of the football. Their defense is incredible. I mean, they drafted Patrick Surtain, the second, his dad, all-pro corner, who is also a corner. He's looked incredible this preseason. He's their fourth corner. Like, they are loaded. Kyle Fuller, who they got from the Bears. Ronald Darby came over. Bryce Callaway. Really, really good. And then their safeties, Kareem Jackson and Justin Simmons, arguably the best in the league. Bradley Chubb will be there. Von Miller will be back from injury. I love my guy, Shelby Harris. So, I mean, they have a stacked defense. If you're, playing fantasy, we haven't done like a defensive thing. Their first couple of games, incredible. I think they're at the Giants, and I'll get into that in a little bit. But I think their first 3 or 4 games, they're going to be like defense 1 as far as matchups. So pick them up if you're looking for a defense. But I love them to make the wild card. Now with 7 teams, like I like Denver to really be competitive. I think they're going to be, you said they're over under with 8.5. I think they're going to be right around that 9-10 win range, and they're going to push for a wild card. So I like that at plus 250.
Nice. My next one, I've got 2 left. My next one is, I talked all about the Goff to Stafford upgrade and why I took Stafford 10-1 to win it all. I got Jared Goff 9-1 to lead the NFL in interceptions. I think the situation in Detroit, they're going to be losing. They're going to be playing from behind. Kenny Golladay is gone. He does have TJ Hawkinson at tight end, who's pretty good. This receiving core is dust. I mean, they don't have any playmakers, and they're going to be playing from behind and chunking it. And I just think Sean McVay made Jared Goff look so much better than he is for years. All these Lions fans are like, oh, we downgraded from Stafford to Goff, but we got all this stuff. You have no idea how much you downgraded. Goff at 9-1, I think, is a good price. They're going to be rough, and he's going to turn the ball over a lot. So that's my next pick.
So you're already making me regret. I know we haven't started talking about week 1 bets yet, but I'm going to be on the Lions plus 7.5. I just know. I get it. 7.5-point home dog. The whole world is going to tease the Rams, or excuse me, the Niners on the road. I just know it. And I'm just in my thought process. Don't overthink it. Play the math. The math says the Lions cover this game, but you're right. It's a terrifying proposition. I would not be surprised if Jared Goff led the league in interceptions.
They're going to try to run it with DeAndre Swift. They do have a pretty good offensive line, but I think they're going to get behind in some games because they struggle. So
Swift might not have a full workload week 1. So if you're a DeAndre Swift owner in fantasy, Jamal Williams is a guy to just kind of pick up if he's unrostered and kind of hold on to the last minute until you see what the injury status is on Sunday.
Awesome.
All right, I have one I'd like to go into. Micah Parsons, Defensive Rookie of the Year, plus 500. I mean, you look at who wins these awards. The last two have been Ohio State premium pick edge rushers and Chase Young and Nick Bosa. You get some corners in there, Marshawn Lattimore, 2017, Marcus Peters, but those are completely interception dependent. Darius Leonard won it in 2018, so it does show that a stand-up linebacker can do it. Micah Parsons, he is a dude. And I don't think the Cowboys defense necessarily is going to be very good, but I think he is a difference maker. Like, this is a guy who, as a freshman in high school, 14-year-old guy had 18 and a half sacks. He's the type of guy that makes an immediate impact. He's impressed me in preseason. I really like Micah Parsons, plus 500 in the Barstool Sportsbook to be Defensive Player of the Year this year.
So this kind of piggybacks off of what you said regarding the Broncos, and I probably should have jumped in with it then. That being said, Chargers to make the playoffs plus 104. Now, I know you had mentioned how tough you thought the AFC West was going to be, but you did think that the Broncos would make the wild card. We're in lockstep with this AFC West division, and I just really think this Chargers team is going to level up huge. And why? Because they no longer have Anthony Lynn. Anthony Lynn made me so much money once I started fading him.
Worst ever. The worst.
It was
literally punted to KC in overtime last year. What are you doing?
It just didn't matter. No matter what the line was, bet against him in the second half because you knew he was going to do something stupid. He was going to punt. He was going to kick a field goal. He was going to turn the ball over on downs. It did not matter. The bonehead plays that he made, that he called or whatever it was, 5 games. It cost that team at least 5 games last year. And this is I like Justin Herbert. I think he's going to do really well. Everybody that I kind of know out here on the West Coast that does a lot of media stuff has great things to say about him. The team loves him. He's got everybody in the locker room, which is great to have. Now, when you have a new head coach, sometimes I like to tread lightly, but I just can't see Brandon Staley being worse than Anthony Lynn.
No, I don't either. And Derwin James being healthy this year is going to help him a ton, too. He's a lot of injuries.
Healthy right now.
Well, good point. Fair enough. Hey, this time of year, optimism reigns supreme, baby.
Yeah, until we get to October, and all of us are completely pessimistic. Set me on fire. I'm done.
Yeah. Mintz, you got another?
Yeah, I got 2. Well, one thing that I'm going to mention real quick. She mentioned a defensive rookie of the year. This guy's not on the Barstool Sportsbook prop. He's such a long shot. Andre Cisco, the Jags rookie safety out of Syracuse, is freaking unreal. And I was trying to find him like 100 to 1. He was hurt last year at Syracuse. This dude is a dude. Look out for him. That's a super long shot. I wish that I could get a prop on him. And then mine for Offensive Rookie of the Year, Shay and I have been going at it. We've been going 10 rounds on Najee Harris, the Steelers' first-round pick out of Bama. The offensive line does concern me. I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't. But he's got 3 down back, and I think he's phenomenal catching the ball. I think he can get the double-digit touchdowns. And a phenomenal route runner. Shades of Le'Veon Bell dominating on all 3 downs for Pittsburgh coming. I've watched college football my entire life. I thought he's the most dynamic running backs I've ever seen. Size, speed, physical, tough, route running. This dude can freaking do it all. And he's going to help Ben Roethlisberger's career out a lot. I got him 9 to 1 to win Offensive Rookie of the Year. Let's go, boys.
I think that's pretty good value for him. Like, I don't love him. I think he's going to be a really good player. I don't want to be like a Najee Harris hater. I just think he would be a poor value as a first round pick.
I think the thing is, I think his receiving skills, the fact that he's a 3 down back and how good he is catching the ball and route running and stuff, being great. That's going to be what sets him off a little more than people realize.
But look, I actually don't disagree because I got the Barstool Sportsbook website up right now, and the whole world's betting Trevor Lawrence, as of course they are. I'm not that high on Mac Jones. I don't want to get into the Patriots drama, but I think he's getting thrown to the wolves rather quickly. Justin Fields, he may be the starter by week 4, week 5. Andy Dalton's the starter there. Trey Lance, just Jimmy Garoppolo's position to lose. Mm-hmm. Zach Wilson, absolutely not. Come on. With the Jets, so Najee Harris, man, 9-1. I actually like that. I'm going to jump on that with you, Mincy.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, let's go. I think I don't know that he's going to get to this level, but like the very end of the Elway career, you're a Broncos fan, what Terrell Davis did to extend it. Najee Harris being brought in to try to do it. I don't know if Pittsburgh's winning back-to-back Super Bowls, but I do think Najee Harris, this is immediate.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. Now that I look at it a little bit more, you're right. That's going to be Tomlin's game plan. They lost 4 guys on the offensive line. They're going to try to run the ball. They've got to protect Big Ben because they can't afford for him to be hurt again. Look, yes, you got Juju. Yes, you have Claypool, but I think that they're going to be run heavy this year. That's why I like a lot of their games going under.
Okay.
Yep. All right. Let's get into, let's talk bare bottom clothing really quickly. Before you pack for your next trip, check out Bare Bottom Clothing. Their lineup is versatile menswear and gets it done for summer and fall. And they got the internet's best deal. You can get 2 unbelievably soft, lightweight tech tees and a pair of stretch shorts for under $100. As a guy who personally doesn't clothes shop that much, this is an incredible deal. They put it all together. This is great. Don't get caught up with shorts below the knee with their 5.5 and 7-inch inseam styles. Bare Bottom has your summer covered. Everything is built for value. And you get the softest, stretchiest clothes in the game for a fraction of what you'd spend with the other guys. And their 5-star rated shorts, swimmies, and tees have a cult-like following with thousands of guys who have made Bare Bottom the MVP of their closets. Giving back is at the core of what Bare Bottom does, and they donate a school lunch to a child in need for each item sold, which is awesome. So get free shipping on your first order at barebottomclothing.com with the code FACTORY. That's a bear, BEAR, and the animal bottom clothing.com, and use the code FACTORY. Again, barebottomclothing.com, use code FACTORY. Free shipping, and you get a school lunch for a kid in need. Win-win there. One thing I do want to say that I'm almost hedging myself with this bet a little bit. I know Aaron Donald, in my mind, is a lock for Defensive Player of the Year almost every year until he starts to fall off, which is no time soon. But I did take a flyer on one other guy, so I'm kind of peppering this category. Defensive Player of the Year, there is just one value that jumped off the page to me, and that's Devin White, 33-1, plus 3,300 to win Defensive Player of the Year. This award does not go to stand-up linebackers very often, so I understand that. But the last time it happened was in 2013, which was a recent dozen question, Luke Kuechly being the answer. In that year, Kuechly had 156 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 4 picks, and 2 sacks. Devin White is a different kind of player. He is a tackle machine. All reports are his pass coverage is a lot better. It was really good in the playoffs last year, which has been the knock on him. I think he was number 28 in the NFL Players Top 100, which is pretty big. But he gets sacks. So he had 9 sacks last year. They use him as a rusher a lot and a blitzer. And I think he's gonna make plays like on the ball and picking the ball off. He did so in the playoffs last year. So Devin White, I think, is worth a flyer for a future with Rookie of the Year.
I want to add, I like it too, Shay. I may sprinkle that one in as well. I actually know Devin White. I used to do sports radio in Shreveport, Bossier, where he played high school. His attorney and handler was my title sponsor in radio in Shreveport, Louisiana. What a crazy world. Devin White's a great dude. Congrats on him going back to LSU, just finished his degree. And even though he's a Tampa Bay Buccaneer, I would freaking love to see that. Great guy.
So I have one more little Devin White nugget if we're getting into Devin White nuggets. I don't want to say I'm the reason, but I provided the reasoning for him to change his number to 45. So he was number 40 in college, and he had a hashtag he would tweet out all the time. It said "Get Live 40." When he got drafted to the Bucs, they asked him at a press conference, like, "Oh, Mike Allstott, Buccaneers great, has worn this number and is retired. What are you going to do?" And he was like, "Would you like to wear that number?" The press was asking, not Mike Allstott. And he was like, "Yeah, I would love to wear that number if I could have it. But I guess, it didn't get unretired and he didn't get it." So he showed up to rookie pictures wearing number 41. And so I saw an article on Pro Football Talk that it was like the last day for rookies to declare their numbers. So I shot him a DM and I said, hey, wouldn't it be cool, or like, wouldn't it make a lot more sense with the number 45 for two reasons? One, like hashtag #GetLive45 sounds really good. And also, the guy who's going to be mentoring you, Levante David, is 54. Like, wouldn't this be a good idea? And he responded with like the thinking face. And the next day, his number was changed to 45. So
that is awesome.
Yep. If he ever goes in the Ring of Honor with 45, the Bucks Ring of Honor, I'm going to take a lot of pride in that.
Like, do you saw the screenshot? Did you screen grab it? So you
of course I did.
Well, yeah, you saw the screen grab from 2019. You just sent me of an email you sent to Portnoy that was like, hey, you got to hire this chick. I am still, look, you're just all over the place, making moves for other people.
Yep, that's what I do. So technically, Kelly, you're part of my coaching tree now.
I love it.
Megan's definitely part of mine. So
yes, I love that. All right, Kelly, do you have any more futures or week one stuff?
That's pretty much what I've got for futures that are like my real favorites. Those are the ones I would say that I bet at what I would call a 3% play, 3% of your bankroll. Always bet responsibly, guys. Remember that. So those would be my favorites. And those are the ones I wanted to share with you. Because when I was doing my NFL videos, I kind of gave out one on each team, but that doesn't mean that I, was rushing to the window to bet it. We can talk week one if you guys are ready. I've got a few week one plays.
Yeah, love to talk early thoughts on week one. And, I love the direction of this Fantasy Football Factory podcast. We do tons of stuff with the Barstool Sportsbook, whether it be props, but we're also not afraid to throw out the occasional gambling pick and look at the week one lines. Also, over-unders pertain a lot to fantasy football. When you're doing the start-sit thing, you probably want to start the guy with over-under 53 instead of 39. That's a great way to analyze it. So let's do it. I want to hear some early week one thoughts with you, Kelly, and I have some, and I know Steven does as well.
Mincy, you absolutely nailed it. This is where it goes back into my brain where maybe I overanalyze the fantasy football thing. You're right. You want to start the teams with the Kansas City Chiefs players, the Dallas Cowboy players, all of those really high totals versus the Pittsburgh Steelers who are really low. And I'll start with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and they're really low against the against the Bills. And it's come down for a reason. And that's because some really smart people must agree with me. I bet under 50 for the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Buffalo game. This is just a pure and simple trend play. This Steelers defense has absolutely dominated over the last decade. I know a lot of people aren't very happy with Tomlin, but that's one thing that we can say about his teams. They're very defensive minded. I think Josh Allen's going to have a great year. I looked to draft him for my fantasy league. It did not happen. He went in the freaking second round. I was so mad. He was my target in the fourth. Did not get there. I got Lamar in late in the third round instead. But I do like this under. I think the line is too high. Now we've seen it kind of come down a little bit. I know a lot of people are going to expect this to be a high-flying game because it does involve Buffalo and their myriad of awesome playmakers. But I do think the Steelers are going to be able to keep it close. And I did not have the guts to actually bet the Steelers. So I like the under.
I like unders in week one in general, Kelly. So often offenses take a few weeks to find their rhythm. So the week one unders tend to have a little value.
Love it. Mintzy, do you have a week one pick?
I have a couple I was looking at. The two I'm debating, I'll just say it. The two I'm debating, I like the New England Patriots against Miami. Kelly, you bagged on Mac Jones a minute ago. I'm on the other end of it. I think he's going to have the best NFL career out of him, Tua, and Jalen Hurts. I'm not a Tua fan. I don't think it's – let's just say the Alabama offense didn't seem like it got any worse when it went from Tua to Mac Jones last year, and that's putting it mildly. I think Mac, while I don't know that he has the huge upside ceiling, he is ready for the NFL coming out of Bama. He was at Bama 4 or 5 years, and he's going to distribute the football and be smart with it. And I think New England is going to, I don't think they win that division, but I think they bounce back from the 7-9 year. They're at home week one. I think they take care of Miami, and I'm seeing it at 2.5 on the Barstool Sportsbook. So that's one I'm looking at. The other one that barely didn't make the cut. I hate taking road favorites, especially small ones, always kind of feel a little suckery, and I was looking at Jacksonville against Houston because I think Houston's going to just be so wretched with Tyrod Taylor out there. But the 2.5 point road favorite line always catches me out. So we're going to go with New England instead of Jacksonville.
Love it. I've got one bet that I've made for week one, and it's a parlay. The value on both these I didn't think was great. So I went Bucks money line against the Dallas Cowboys. It's tough as a fan of the specific team to bet the spread because I would not be happy if they covered the spread and lost. So for Bucks, I'm always going to go money line, but Bucks money line at home against Dallas on Thursday night. And then I'm parlaying that with the Broncos on the road against the Giants, 2.5-point favorites. And the Bucks are bringing all 22 starters back. I have a lot of faith they're going to get it done on Thursday night. The Giants last year, I mean, they got off to a really slow start. We've seen last year they started off 0-5. In their first 8 games, they were 1-7. And it's not like they finished hot either. Like they lost 3 of their last 4 to end the season. We saw the training camp that Joe Judge ran, just leading guy after guy to retirement. I think this is the classic sign of a team starting to quit on a coach. So I'm going to take that, Denver, who we've already talked about. I'm super high on 2.5 at MetLife Stadium in that parlay with Bucks money line, which is pretty good value.
As Kelly, I think you pointed this out. Teddy Bridgewater on the road against the spread. Serious thing.
You know, this is a thing, and everybody's going to be like, what? I have a certain set of rules that I live by, because if I had it my way, I'd have 15 freaking bets on a Sunday. Like, and that's just, you can't win long term. So I've got to show some discipline. And one of the very first things I do, if I have a road favorite on my list in the NFL, it's gone. And so I already crossed the Broncos off, but that is the only way I can look in this game. I am not high on this Giants team. I am going to probably bet their season win total under in the next week if we see any kind of shift or movement over at the Barstool Sportsbook. I am not high on Danny Dimes. It's unfortunate, but, you know, we talked about the NFC East, and I think it's watching football team Dallas, and then the ceiling drops to the basement, and then it's a battle for who's going to be at the bottom between the Eagles and the Giants.
Yeah, and the one thing on the Giants, following up on it, Cheah, you mentioned the offensive lineman getting run out, the weirdness of the O-line coach getting fired. You know, now you're putting in a new O-line coach in Rob Sale. You got O-line turnover. Not a team you need to be able to block against that Denver front seven with Chubb and Von Miller. That could be a problem.
Yep. Defensive running game travels. And it's not like they're going to an early slate. It's a 4:25 game. So no disadvantage as far as circadian rhythm.
Mm-hmm. And that stuff matters more, I think, later in the season too.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of stuff.
I'm going to pull the data for you guys. I have some really smart guys, way smarter than I am, that have some really great databases. And that used to be a thing back in the day where, you know, teams from the West Coast traveling east, you get a 3-hour time difference. But now with private jets, with the way that guys are there, you know, the day or two before, it really doesn't throw them off as much. And so that whole 10 a.m., you know, West Coast start is kind of no longer. I'm going to find the data for you guys over the last decade. It's kind of really started to level off in terms of if it really affects players.
Interesting. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that makes sense because they're not flying commercial like MLS players. All right. You guys have any more week 1 picks?
That's kind of what I was looking at so far. I'll probably have some more, I'll probably have some more for our Sunday show. And we're going to be doing, for our listeners, we're going to be doing a little quick Sunday hit. We're going to have a segment on the Pro Football Show. And thanks to Dave and Dan and Dion and Casey for having us on that. And then we're going to be going live. It looks like on the Barstool Sportsbook YouTube, I believe, Steven?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're gonna be doing, so when the active and inactive list comes out, which is at 11:30 Eastern, I believe, we're gonna touch on the start sit. We're gonna call it Dear Mr. Fantasy. We're gonna take your listener questions because fantasy's all about you guys. We're gonna have our start sit advice. We're gonna touch on the week 1 gambling lines, and we're gonna tell you about some of our favorite plays. So look for that right after the Barstool Pro Football Show airs around 11:30 Eastern on Sunday. Very excited about that. And then also look out for videos. We're going to do prop bet videos for Thursday night primetime game and Sunday night with prop picks for those. So a lot of plans here, and we just can't say enough how much we appreciate the support we're getting from all you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kelly, thank you so much for joining the show. We'll tune in to Money Shots on Thursday for week 1 games, and that's awesome. We're looking forward to hearing you and Megan making money together. You guys will be an awesome pair.
All right, guys. Thank you for having me on. Good luck this year, and let's all make some money.